Morena, everyone. This is Kathrin speaking. I can't start my video at the moment. There you go. Here we are. Morena, everyone. Let's begin with a karakia to settle into the morning, into the day. Ha kiroto. Ha kiwaho. Kia tau te Māori e kokiri Inga piki, mena heke, ko te rangi Māori e tāku e rapu nei. Tihei Māori ora. We breathe in and we breathe out. We settle the Māori that might stir inside of us through the ups and the downs, and we seek peace. Over to you, Esther.
Kia ora. Thank you, Kathrin. Good morning. Kia ora and welcome everybody to this morning's palliative care webinar, which is Weaving Holistic Care to Enhance Hauora, the Role of Social Care. Hopefully by the end of our session, you'll have a greater understanding of social care, its role in the palliative care space, and you'll get to meet a few of the different members of our social care team. A little bit of housekeeping before we start off. So you'll see that there are two different functions in the chat. There's a chat function, which you can use for help, so your sound might not be working, or for general questions that aren't course related. Kathrin will also ask you to add a couple of things into the chat as we go, so just hang out for that. And we'll be having a panel for Q&A at the end. If you have any questions you'd like to ask our panel, pop those questions into the Q&A function, and we'll get to those at the end. Tēnā koutou katoa, I whānau mai oe ingirangi, I tipu aki au I Tamaki Makaurau, he Psychosocial Services Manager oe Hospice West Auckland, ko Esther Bushell, toku ingoa, tēnā tātou katoa. My name is Esther Bushell and I'm the Psychosocial Services Manager here at Hospice West Auckland. I was born in Cornwall, England, but I grew up in Auckland and I'm proud to call West Auckland my home.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko tia mana te whakapaparanga mai, ko mā Ruhrgebiet te whenua tupu, ko Tamaki Makaurau Aotearoa, me te nahere o te Waitakere Ranges, toko kainga, ko Nairi Takuwahine, ko Kathrin, toko ingoa. I'm originally from Germany. I grew up in a little town called Mal in the central west. The area is called Ruhrgebiet, and I call Auckland, New Zealand, and especially the bush of the Waitakere Ranges my home. This is where I live with my partner Nairi, and I work here at Hospice West Auckland as the creative arts therapist.
So Kathrin and I are part of the social care team here at Hospice West Auckland, and our team's responsible for addressing the psychosocial needs of our whaiora and whānau. And Kathrin, I think you've got a whakatauki that you want to share with us.
Yeah, we thought we start off with one of the whakatauki that holds a little bit of what we do here. Whaia te hauora hinenaro, kia pua wai ai te hauora tangata. There is no health or well-being without mental health. And to start us off, if you take us to the next slide, Esther, we're interested, what do you know when you hear the words psychosocial or social care? What comes to your mind? And we invite you to take a moment to put your answers, your whakaaro, your thoughts into the chat.
And to start us off on our journey, I'm going to take us back to London, 1967, where Dame Cicely Saunders founded St. Christopher's Hospice. She was the founder of the modern hospice movement. As a nurse, she qualified as a nurse, a social worker, a doctor, and she combined all those skills and values to provide the foundations for person-centered care. Dame Cicely recognised that suffering encompasses all of a person's physical, psychological, social, spiritual, and practical struggles. So when we start to think about social care and psychosocial support, we can really bring it back to that modern hospice movement. It was that new way of thinking, focusing and incorporating the psychosocial and looking at the person as a whole that made modern hospice so groundbreaking at the time. But I don't know if it started there. Kathrin, do you want to talk through Te Whare Tapawhā and other Indigenous models?
Yeah, it is. The idea of holistic care is actually a very old indigenous practice that we might have lost a little bit in our Western mindsets. So Ta Mason Dury gifted the Te Whare Tapawhā model in 1984, and what he did is he went out to his people to being prompted to think about how are you going to help our people? And I think it was his auntie who said, you got to do something else, you got to help us. And he came up with this layout. So this is a very holistic way of thinking. And it aligns with not only Tangata Whenua, but also Pacifica peoples and many other indigenous models of health. So what it does is it invites us to view health from within a few pillars, a few walls, rather than focusing on just one problem, on one challenge within a person's life. In all those four walls, taha tiana, our physical well-being, taha wairua, our spiritual well-being, taha hinenaro, our mental and emotional well-being, and taha whānau, family and social well-being, are all vital to keep the wharenui, to keep the house upstanding. And the wharenui, in metaphorical form, are we, that's ourselves. If one of those walls is damaged, as we would know if we're living in a house, if one of those walls is damaged, stuff can come into the house and the house is not as insulated, not as cozy and warm and nourishing as it might be. So we're hoping to prop up and to insulate and hold up all of those four walls. So that's when we thrive. That's when we find Hauora. And the other thing about Te Whare Tapawhā is that it is important that it is built on good whenua, on land roots. If our house is sitting on quicksand, it might collapse. So the idea of whenua is particularly important for tangata whenua, connecting back to their the place where they grew up, for example, but also the place that we are at now, and making sure that our land and our roots, we are also connected to that. So the end point is in this model to have someone who is well in every sense of the word. Esther, would you like to talk a little bit about how it might impact us when we're having a challenging diagnosis?
Yeah, thank you, Kathrin. So if I was to put myself in the shoes of someone receiving the news that my condition is terminal, sometimes it can be quite sudden or unexpected news. I'd imagine that many thoughts and feelings could run through my mind. Suddenly, that one diagnosis becomes a whole tangle of thoughts, feelings, questions, needs, emotions. It's not only the thoughts that are popping into my head, but it's the thoughts that are popping into my whānau, my loved ones' heads as well. What will happen to me as my needs change? How will my whānau cope? Have I done what I wanted to do? Will my whānau miss me? How can I find meaning with this new challenge? Will I be a burden? Might be angry, confused. I might have some physical symptoms like pain, nausea, fatigue. Where do we start with this? It's an overwhelming feeling that comes on top of having a diagnosis and knowing that that sort of stage in your life is changing, but everything else that comes with it can be practical things, it can be psychological things, emotional, social. They all incorporate into one another. We might pop back to the word cloud now. Hopefully, our learning team have had a chance to get it all set up. Here it is.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you, learning team. So what we've done is we took your ideas around what psychosocial care is, and we popped it up into a little word cloud. And it's lovely to see that the two things that really stand out is that it's a holistic approach. It's not just focused on one part of the person. It encompasses all sorts of ways of supporting a human being, and it is focused on support. And I can also see wraparound community connection, standing up. So how do we support the human being and their whānau? How do we create a sense of community and connection and wraparound care to, to see them for all that they are and bring? And I wonder whether now is a good time to maybe start to meet some of the team, Esther, to maybe see the first people. So we will have a few videos that we have sprinkled throughout to invite you into our social care team here at Hospice West Auckland.
Sounds good. And just a quick housekeeping heads up. The sound on the videos, some of it might be a little bit quiet, some might be a little bit louder. So you might just want to adjust your volume as we go.
Kia ora. I'm Maxine, part of the social care team, one of the counsellors here.
Kia ora, I'm Amy. I'm also a counsellor, part of the social care team as well here at Hospice.
It's been alongside patients and families going through their journeys and helping provide a safe space where people can talk about their difficulties and concerns and develop some coping strategies to help navigate the changes that they're going through in life.
Just to put words and meaning to their experience, what they're going through. Yeah, it's a space to do that and reflect.
Our emotional self is equally part of our whole self, which is mind, body, spirit, environment. It's all impacted, so one can't exist without the other.
It's te whare tapawhā. Yeah, having a holistic look at well-being.
Wonderful. Welcome, Max and Amy, in a little clip inviting us into their counseling mahi. So as they talked about, we address a variety of things. We provide emotional support, and when people come into hospice, one of the things that is on our forefront is to understand that the patient who comes in, the people who come in here are more than their diagnosis. So yes, they come with maybe a stage 4 cancer or an MND diagnosis or severe COPD, and yet they are way more than that. They come with relationships or lack thereof. They come with their own psychological, emotional issues and symptoms that might be caused by the diagnosis and the journey that's to come, or other things that they're already bringing with them that lie outside of that. And what we address is those things. So we provide that wraparound support for them. And that starts from the moment they come through the Hospice West Auckland doors. So we gift them an opportunity, or we invite them to consider, is there something else you need in your life? Would you like some counseling, massage therapy? What else is it that could support your overall hauora, your well-being? And we are there throughout their whole journey for the patients as well as whānau and other people that might be associated with it. So the tangata whaiora, the patient, and their whānau will be supported from diagnosis to the time when they die, if they so wish. And then afterwards, in the bereavement stage, we're also still supporting the whānau, if they so wish, to give the space to process their experience of grief and see what other needs might need to be met at that point in time. So let's have a look at another couple videos. We have 2 more coming up, and then Esther will take it again from there.
Kia ora, I'm Ruth Choi Lee. I'm a Social Care Programs Coordinator at Hospice West Auckland and the Social Care team. Social Care Programs Coordinator entails providing and creating social care programs that are available to a patient, family, friends, carers from the community and from different parts of West Auckland. It's to create a place where people come through to make connections, get information, have a good time, to normalise the journey that they're going through. People always tell me when they come, it's really welcoming, it's very warm, and they get to make lots of good connections, not with only with the other patient and carers, but with staff and volunteers who run the groups.
Yeah, my name's Vivian and I'm the hub coordinator at West Auckland Hospice. My job's down here is to coordinate the ground floor, which is where you would come for information for hospice, whether it be come to huitahi groups, which is our community groups to come in. I'm here to help you and guide you through all the services that we can offer you and be a friendly face for you and help you on your way. So the benefits of coming in to the groups that we hold here is you meet people in the same circumstances as you. Hopefully you make some new friends. Yeah, you're not the only one on your journey, and we're here to help you on that journey.
Hauora. So Vivian coordinates our hospice hub, which is kind of like an outpatient clinic where our whaiora and whānau can come in for different appointments, groups and sessions. And Ruth coordinates the groups, the sessions that we run downstairs. She also has a big role to play in supporting our patient and whānau volunteers as well. So why do we do what we do? Well, evidence shows us that psychosocial aspects are just as important as the physical aspects of care, and it's even more important in a palliative care setting. The World Health Organization recognises palliative care as a holistic approach that involves a range of services delivered by a range of professionals who have equally important roles to play. We know that access to good and early psychosocial care can improve outcomes for patients and their whānau and facilitate an opportunity to live and to die well. And it's equally important for whānau who are alongside their loved one on this journey, can help to improve their grieving outcomes or their grief process. And if we think back to our character in the earlier slide, his hands in his head, a tangle in his thoughts, the role of social care can help to hold, to understand, to navigate, and in some ways help to unpick and untangle that tangle. It enables our whaiora to attend to whatever's important to them, helps hold some of that burden. I'm going to meet another member or two members of the team.
Hi, I'm Natasha.
Hi, I'm Haruko.
We are palliative care massage therapists at Hospice West Auckland. So we do massage therapy for patients and carers. We do them at home or in the hospice. I'm also an aromatherapist and make products for our patients. We make skincare products such as creams that help with itchiness, redness, dry skin, and we also make little aroma sticks like Vicks inhalers with all the different essential oils in them. Massage therapy is really important in palliative care. Firstly, it helps alleviate symptoms such as pain or breathing. But the most important thing, I think, is that it reconnects a person to their body in a positive way. So they can feel good about themselves, just relax, zone out, and massage feels good.
Especially if someone's stressed out, it's very helpful to say relax.
Okay, and back over to you, Kathrin.
Yeah, thank you, Esther. So thinking about the people that come in, sometimes I think when people come, for example, into the hospital system, it's very much focused on physical pain, or when people go to a counselor in a standard counseling agency, it's very much focused on psychological pain or something like that. What the hospice movement does, it tries to focus on the idea of total pain. What is the total pain that makes up the experience of a human being? And psychological pain is one of these parts as a social spiritual, physical pain, and I guess we could add way more. We could add financial stresses, we could add societal stresses, we could add a lot of things to that little what's the word? The little thing that we have there. I can't think of the word, and that's fine. So there are many different types of areas that impact on us. And this is often exacerbated when when tangata whaiora, when patients have a serious or life-limiting illness. It exacerbates all the other aspects of our life. Physical pain can obviously impact on our psychological well-being, and that pain can be increased, and vice versa. If we're in a space where we are psychologically not doing well, we're having a really challenging day, we're sad or lonely, then we might have a stronger experience of a physical pain, and so forth. So all these aspects, in a way, impact on each other, and they can either exacerbate each other, so the total pain increases, or they can also help soothe each other. If we decrease psychological pain, if we find a way to be connected with others, then we might hold our physical pain in a different way. It also links back to Te Whare Tapawha. It again talks about how if we are to look at all these different aspects of a person, if we address them, if we acknowledge them and honor them, then we can hopefully decrease the felt or the perceived amount of total pain a person experiences. The two other things with this is that if a person is in pain, so let's say I would be the patient, I'm the terminal patient, it would also impact on the people around me. So it would impact on my partner, it would impact on her ability to be present for me, to make sense of what's happening for me, to have her own journey with that, and it affects in the long run also then especially those who then become the carers and who have to do more of the day-to-day things in the household, or even support with personal care. So the patient's or tangata whaiora's total pain and experience has a ripple effect on the carers and whānau. So it's not, they're very intertwined. The other thing to talk about here is that if we go back to the word palliative, it comes from the Latin word pallium, which is the word for cloak. So going back to the etymology of where does hospice come from and what does palliative care come from? It comes from the idea of cloaking something, of embracing it, of holding it, covering it, not to cover up, not to pretend it's not there, to give it something soft, something velvety comes up for me to help hold the experience. It's not a way of curing it anymore. It's a way of managing the experience, of alleviating pain, alleviating suffering. And that's where the idea of palliative came from, to cloak, to address the total pain. And going back to Dame Cecile Saunders, looking at how she was trained as a nurse, a doctor, a social worker, she had an understanding of we need to do it all to address a person's experience of total pain. So we've got one more video to show, a couple more videos to show, so we will be doing that and meet a couple more members of the team, and a few more actually, and then I will give it back to Esther.
Thanks, Kathrin.
My name is Zain Ali, and I'm the spiritual advisor here at Hospice West Auckland. If you think about spirituality as what gives you meaning and purpose, then the way I see my role is that I'm having conversations with patients and families and whānau about those things that give them meaning and purpose in life. And it may not be necessarily religion or faith. Those things can give you meaning and purpose, but also things like family, art, music, and of course even sport. If you think about what holistic care means, it includes a number of elements, the physical, the mental, the social, but also the spiritual. And I think at hospice, at West Auckland anyway, we do a really good job of providing holistic care, and that includes spiritual care. And it's really a privilege to be able to meet with folks, families, carers, whānau, people in the community, and even staff, and just have open, honest conversations.
I'm Emma and I'm the Rongoa Māori practitioner. The Rongoa Māori is traditional Māori healing. Here at hospice I practice traditional bodywork and native plant medicines and karakia. And I think it's important firstly to whānau Māori because it's something that resonates with them and they can recognise. But it doesn't stop there, I think, because it's an Indigenous and traditional practice, then, you know, it also extends out to whānau that are not Māori. Intrinsically, it's something that resonates with them too. The way I see it in that setting is sort of like the way I see the ngahere, is that the ngahere is full of rākau that have gifts, and they work best when they are together. And I see that's how we work as a team, is that, you know, everybody has something special to offer for the benefit of the whānau who seek our services. We're really privileged and humbled to be able to work with our whānau. A lot of the time actually I'm learning far more from them than I feel like I'm giving out, so it really is a privilege to be working in an organisation like this.
Thank you, Emma, Zane, and also Natasha and Haruko, who I forgot to shout out to earlier. You can start to get a picture as you meet our team about that diverse range of different disciplines. And I don't think I could have said it better than what Emma said around our team working alongside the full team. It's just like a ngahere, you know, we all bring our own gifts to what we do, and that supports, you know, that works into supporting our whaiora and our whānau. So linking it back, how does it all link up and how does it work at Hospice West Auckland? In my opinion, we combine each of our expertise to provide best care. This is a very, very, very simplified model of our care at Hospice West Auckland, but hopefully it gives you a good picture. We've kind of got three core teams: the social care team, Kathrin and I, and the videos which you've been meeting. We've got the nursing team, which is filled up of a range of different disciplines: healthcare assistants, specialist palliative care nurse practitioners, an incredible after-hours service, a POI team, which is around palliative outcome initiatives. I'm probably missing people, so if you're on here watching, I do apologise. And then we've got our wonderful medical team, which is filled of different palliative care medicine specialists, pharmacists, and also allied health, occupational therapy, physiotherapy. We're filled with a range of different disciplines, and each brings their own expertise. We combine our care to meet the needs of our whaiora and our whānau, who sit at the centre. My beautiful white arrow is pointing into that whaiora and their whānau that sits at the centre of what we do in the core. We acknowledge at Hospice West Auckland that each discipline brings its own expertise, and by working in conjunction with one another, we're able to provide a person-centred care that focuses on their overall hauora and health. And we can focus on everything, on all of the walls of Te Whare Tapawhā. And I think we're going to meet our last group of our team, which is our social work team.
Hi, I'm Marla. I'm one of the social workers. here in hospice. Kia ora, I'm Patricia and I'm a social worker here at hospice, been here 13 years.
Kia ora, my name is Naoki. I'm a social worker working at hospice for a year already now. Yes.
Social work in palliative care is particularly addressing some of the really tough questions that people have to face when suddenly they've got a terminal diagnosis. For our patients and their whānau is that there are just so many things that they've got to try and work their way through, and that the world has sort of come crashing around them a wee bit, and it's sitting with them to try and figure out what's number one on the list. How do we need to work through things?
As you guys can see, hospice, you got lots of practitioners working together, different disciplines, and we are closely working with nurses and doctors and other practitioners from social care team.
We work as an interdisciplinary team so that we could give a wraparound support to the family and especially to the patient.
That's right.
So that's our bubbly social work team. And I think, just reinforcing that we have a diverse range of disciplines here. And that's because we know that people have different needs. Each person comes with their own individual needs, and they're all on their own journey. So having a range of disciplines within the entire Hospice West Auckland team means that we can take those different approaches and hopefully cater to the majority of people's individual needs. Thank you to the team who've shared their videos today. I don't think Kathrin and I can really sort of talk about social care and the work that our team do without their wise words. So it's really been a privilege to be able to introduce them to you and give them the space to share their stories. And Kathrin, I think you've got a piece that sort of pulls this all together. So I'll hand to you to share that now.
Yeah, kia ora. Thank you, Esther. One of the things that I do in my hospice mahi is I write poems. I write them sometimes for tangata whaiora or the families. Sometimes I write them for myself to process. Sometimes I write them for other events such as remembrance services. And I thought to pull it all together, I invited our team to gift me with moments from their practice that stuck with them. And I pulled those together into a poem to hopefully give you more of a felt experience of what it is like to swim in the ocean of psychosocial care. When we meet hospice patients and when we meet their whānau, we never know what might unfold. We meet person to person, considering what is needed, physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, relationally. In this space, precious magical encounters take place, celebrating life. The music therapist might offer a space where emotions are acknowledged, embraced, a space that invites connection to ourselves and with each other. Musical pieces, musical expression, paving the path to travel into the uncharted realms of the unconscious, into the depth of grief, held by musical notes, by imagination, gifting a journey towards healing and recovery in all its varied shades. The counselor might offer a space where people feel seen, eyes meeting, a soft gaze, nothing to do here but be. Sitting along the turmoil that death, that grief brings. Here, pain and suffering can be expressed. A space where, as death draws near, one might find the strength to stand up one last time, to exchange a hug, to acknowledge, to honor. No words needed anymore. The massage therapist might offer a space filled with delicious scents and soft light. Here, time seems to stand still for a short little while. Here, gentle touch is gifted to a body that holds so much, endures so much. Here, Music from the homeland might be gifted, inviting casual conversations between a patient and their partner, creating a comforting bubble of love in an unknown environment. Here, strange foreign places can be made to feel homely and warm again, as the body receives healing, relaxing touch. The volunteer coordinator might offer a space for volunteers to go and sit with patients, doing crafts together or reading a book, a godsend on some of those long, dark days. The volunteers bringing laughter and lightness with them, or a sense of comfort and reassurance when life slows down and death is close. Here the support invites connection on a deep social level, over a cup of coffee, some shared kai, experiencing mindfulness or tai chi, or having pet therapy dogs visit, bringing smiles to people's faces as they offer their soft fur for comfort. The social worker might offer a space where all those practical things in life that we often take for granted can be voiced and addressed. As a patient approaches death, food having lost its importance as death draws closer, the wife struggles having provided nourishment decade after decade. Here, with gentle encouragement to shift focus, the wife considers the importance of soul food, of sitting alongside each other, holding hands and sharing hearts to talk instead. Here, death can be explored, the dreaded D word and the dreaded H word. Here, a space for listening invites people to contemplate the next steps, their wishes and hopes, how they would like to be cared for and looked after. The dreaded D and H word slowly dissolving in a conversation that lightens up both patients and whānau. The creative arts therapist might offer a space where people explore their life through creative processes, be it through art materials, movement, imagination, sound, or else. Here, patients and whānau alike contemplate death and what's to come, contemplate grief and what's to come. They might sit around a dining table all together, hearts wide open, painting canvases and adding handprints to cherish the moment, bringing a playful sense of lightness. Here they might express their souls dancing a final waltz or writing a poem, giving form to their soul song, to their pain, their suffering. The spiritual advisor might offer a space where souls meet to explore the spiritual well-being of a person. Here there is time to remember, to reminisce, to express and explore. Sadness might be present as well as anger, about and with God or religion or anything spiritual. Their life stories slowly coming into the light. Here, jokes might be told to break the ice. What is red and bad for your teeth? A brick. With humor paving the way, people meeting where they're at, so that slowly, softly, the sadness can be voiced. The letters written to God expressing the anger held close for too long. The Rongoa Māori practitioner might offer a space where Wairua flows, softly, gently, and at other times powerfully, deeply, richly. Here, Rongoa rākau are prepared and concocted, gently simmered and imbued with aroha. Karakia is offered, whakapapa is acknowledged and cherished. Te tinana and te Wairua meet, as soft, skilled hands miri miri, inviting Wairua to flow and settle. When we meet hospice patients and their whānau, we offer a space to be. And this, I think, brings us almost to the end of our official presentation. Before we go into Q&A, though, I have one other invitation for you. If we go to the next slide, we have another whakatoki here. He oranga ngako, he pikinga waiora. A healthy heart leads to well-being. And we thought before we go into our Q&A, we're going to take a moment for you to check in with yourself after all you've heard and to consider and ponder for yourself what brings you hauora, not just physically, all these other aspects that make you you. And to, We're going to wait for 30 seconds or a minute or so, and we invite you to populate the chat again and to put those things in there. What brings you Hauora?
Great to see some good themes coming through. Time in nature, with family, with friends, connecting and meaning, outdoors, exercising with friends, being connected, finding purpose and meaning. Whānau, kai, laughter, personal relationship with God. Whānau, friends, grounding myself with nature, connection. Papatuanuku, the land, the nature, people and kindness. Whānau, dogs, land and nature. Definitely agree with dogs. I think my beagle gives me quite a bit of joy and good health. The ocean. There's a real strong connection there, Kathrin, with our, with the land and with the elements, isn't there, coming through?
That's really beautiful to see, and that there are, it feels like that's a thread, te taia, or being connected to our environment, to nature, and also people. I feel like there's lots of connection to people, be it friends, whānau, sharing over kai or coffee. Beautiful to see. Thank you for gifting all these beautiful things to the chat, and I guess to each other, because I know that I sometimes forget what is it actually that gives me Hauora, and it can be really lovely to have those reminders of, that too. I haven't done that in a while. How can I make a little bit of space for that? Kia ora, thank you for that.
And Zane, I'm going to hold you to coffee with friends. See if I can convince you to have a coffee one day. All right. So we'll pop over to the Q&A part of our session now. So just a reminder, if you've got any questions, pop them in the Q&A. But I'd like to welcome and hand over to Dr. Celia Palmer, who will introduce herself, and she's going to lead this next part of the session. Celia, I think you might be on mute. Here we go.
Thanks, Esther. Here I am. Morning, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed that presentation as much as I have. It's just reminds me how lucky we are here at Hospice West. What an amazing team. I think somebody put in a chat on that everyone has something special, and I think that that's what we find here, and I'm really grateful for that social care perspective on things. So in this part of the chat, we're going to talk about give you a bit of case examples, and also perhaps go through some of the questions that we've got coming through. So Esther and Kathrin are kindly going to join us, and I'd like to introduce Sally, who's one of our nurse specialists here at Hospice West Auckland. So I think we're going to start, Sally, with you, if that's okay. Sally's going to talk to us about a few patients that she's been involved with where she's worked closely with the social care team.
Thanks, Celia. Thank you, everyone. There's so many beautiful examples to draw upon. One recent experience really highlights the value, I think, of therapeutic touch and the skill of our massage therapists. I've named this particular lady Janet. She was referred by medical oncology. She has metastatic breast cancer and was receiving the last in a long line of chemotherapy on and off, actually since 1997. At the initial assessment, accompanied by a daughter, she was very quiet. She felt there was no need for any support or services, and did repeatedly tell me that she had a very high pain threshold. She did, however, accept a second visit, and at that, with a little bit of duress, accepted a massage therapy, really to keep her daughter happy, I think. The notes from that massage therapy suggest a real apprehension on her part, but she just reflected with me that it was absolutely lovely. a real softness to a voice around that. Unfortunately, a few weeks later, she presented to hospital with neutropenic sepsis. A very long visit ensued in which she went into acute renal failure. CT scan showed progressive disease and chemotherapy was abruptly stopped. She's now at home and bedbound. It's been an incredibly challenging time for her and her whānau. However, a constant throughout this time has been massage. Janet now appears to associate touch with a newfound softness and gentleness, trust and connection, a theme that has come up throughout this talk today, in sharp contrast to the years of cannulation, scans and treatment that she'd actually endured. It is this connection that has undoubtedly created a bridge over which I feel I and other members of the team have been able to cross, so to speak, and ensure that we can better support her needs and care for her and her whānau well. So that particular example, I think, really highlights the skill in our massage therapists.
It's interesting what you said then about they provide, in a way, they got a connection which then helped us all to connect better, which I think I definitely feel like that. Did you want to comment on that at all, Kathrin or Esther?
Yeah, I think it is a beautiful bridge building. It is, I feel like having something like massage therapy is well known to people. People know what a massage therapist does, and they don't understand that it can also touch deeper layers of a human being. And I guess a body that has been, like you said, Sally, has been prodded, has had so many procedures, and has had so much touch that was not therapeutic, that was painful, to have that reframed, that in and of itself is something that goes beyond pure relaxation or yeah, it's beautiful to see that bridge building, and what a gift for Janet to have that towards the end of her life. Thank you, Sally. That's beautiful.
I was going to say the other example that I see repeatedly is the skill of our social work team, sitting with people, alongside people, and working through their ACP. We've got one lady at the moment, a young mum with 2 children, who is receiving quite a lot of support. Kathrin, you're seeing the Children for Art Therapy. She's a very strong woman, but for her the ACP was unsurmountable. It was too hard to consider, and actually any time it was broached, the tears would fall, and I'd think, well, it's not a legal requirement, perhaps we just settle it. But I had spoken to the social work team, and over a cup of tea and some laughs and gentleness, that ACP has been completed. And this particular lady reflected she just did not imagine that something she found so unsurmountable could be completed, and with humour. She said, how could we have laughed at that time, but we did. And she feels a sense of self-determination and completion, and what it has also done is allowed us to now explore some of those themes with her more easily. She's able to talk more easily about her wishes. So yeah, the examples are there's many flowing on a daily basis.
I think that's a beautiful reflection, Sally, especially in relation to humour, because I agree with you. When people think our job is very serious and generally very sad, which it usually is, but also humour is also there. People bring their own sense of humour and laughter, and many people want to laugh with us as well as cry. So I think that's a lovely thing to point out. I just want to go back to something that Kathrin, you said earlier, because I think people bring not only the suffering of kind of leaving this world, which often for many people we work with is premature, but also the life they lived, whether that's suffering through it or experiences they've had that are really tricky that they may not have dealt with. And so some of the things people we work with, maybe they have gone through drug addiction or still have an addiction to drugs. They might be very isolated and for whatever reason have become very alone. They might have estrangement or difficult relationships. And these things tend to really come to a core when people are facing the last weeks, months of their life. And I think being able to offer this range, a whole range of support in this context is particularly key, and reminds me of a patient that I'm sure Kathrin will know, who's this relates to a young family. The mother was dying, had a terminal illness, and their older daughter, they had two daughters, but the older daughter had died in a car accident previously. She had a second daughter, and they hadn't really worked through the loss of the first, and the relationship with the second was complicated, and the second daughter was also having problems and behavioral problems at school. And I think that was a time when the whole social care, we had support from the massage therapist for the mum, but also counselling for the mum. And I think Kathrin, you and our music therapist then also helped with the daughter. And that was over quite a long time of quite intense input that I think that I saw that relationships became much better and more healthy, and a lot of things were dealt with. So sometimes it is really about dealing with some of the things that somebody's faced in their life, and that can be really, really challenging for our teams as well. And certainly I know I'm out of my depth and I'm very, very grateful that to have all those skills to draw on. I don't know if you wanted to comment about that one, Kathrin, particularly.
Yeah, that I think the strength of having an interdisciplinary team like we have is that we can be out of our depth because we know there is someone else who can support us alongside that. We don't need to know it all. We can share the load, and I think that's really one very helpful thing. I can imagine in hospitals it's much more complicated to do that, but here we can say, oh, something comes up. I do the same if I feel like this is actually physical pain related, and then I can feed it back to the nurse or the doctor and vice versa. And with that particular case, it's quite a privilege, I think, always to support people not only coming to terms with a terminal diagnosis, yet to also acknowledge you bring your life, you bring all these things that are being exacerbated by what is happening for you right now, and to acknowledge that and not compartmentalize it, to show you we see you as a whole, we see you as a person with all of the puzzle pieces that you are, and we see your whānau with all the puzzle pieces that you are. And we step into the space with the knowledge, with the mātauranga that we bring, supporting each other. So that's what comes to mind in response to you, Celia.
And I think as a team, we often, in those really complicated cases, try to get together to talk about and share those thoughts. Actually, on reflection, we could do that more, and I think it's a really useful thing, to do and to have. And the other space which I think reminds me about is about legacy. Sometimes I think people really want to leave something. It may be, especially I've found anyway, with mothers, they want to leave something for their children, or fathers who want to leave a message, or something for them to have to remind them of them. Which another young Maori mum we had 4 children, and she again was somebody who did take quite a long time for us to connect with, but I think eventually we had really good connections with her. And her time, she wanted always to hope, and we can imagine why that was. She didn't want to see that time was relatively short. So we had a relatively short time to try to support her to help with some sort of legacy, which I think you were involved in that one as well, Kathrin. But I thought that was a really nice thing to be able to offer her at that stage.
Absolutely. And the idea of writing letters comes to mind. Sometimes people need support with it, or I have supported whānau with, like I alluded in the poem, I sat with a whānau of 10, ranging from 4 years old to the grandfather who is the hospice patient. Everyone created a canvas together. Handprints are used at times to really remember the moment and the person that will die eventually. And those are things, those tangible things that live on when the person has died. And it's a real privilege to be able to support with that legacy mahi, alongside all the other things that we offer.
And I think that can be quite a prominent theme that comes through with our whaiora and whānau, is that wanting to leave that legacy, that memory behind, but also that sense of wanting to finalise things, tie up those loose ends, and with that comes that trauma that we were talking about earlier. one of the other legacy things that we do is something called life reviews, which is led by our patient and family volunteers who can go out and spend that time to sit with our whaiora, listen to their story, hear their story, and then they turn it into this beautiful book that's then gifted back to the whānau. And it's the person's opportunity to tell their story, have it written down, and put in whatever it is that's important to them, letters, recipes, what their childhood was like, and leave that lasting legacy.
Thank you. Thanks, Esther. I think since time is running out for us as well, I just address a couple of questions that we'd had coming through. I think I'll put this one for you, Esther. How do you address the impact of the suffering you and your team see on a daily and experience on a daily basis?
Yeah, good question. And I think referring back to what you said earlier, I mean, it comes down to all of us in the team. Sally, you and your colleagues will be affected. Celia, you and yours as well. We do a job that is tough at times, but we also find great privilege in doing what we're doing. And I think that can be healing in itself. But my team also, our spiritual carer, Zane, he does a wonderful job. He hosts a community remembrance service twice a year that our staff go to, but he also does a weekly remembrance, which is, it's for us, it's an opportunity for the staff to come together and reflect on those people that we've lost under our care in the last week. The staff have a chance to tell stories about their experiences. Sometimes we have a laugh, and hearing about these wonderful things that these people have done. But also it's that ritual as well, the opportunity for us we don't see that person as a patient. We've understood the journey that they've gone through. So I think that that's really important. And of course, all of us come with our professional skills, our professional background, so we can rely on that. And come back to how we manage our self-care. And peer reviews is something that we do quite a lot of, not only in our team, but in that wider team as well. An afternoon hui to just come and talk about things and be open and real about what we're dealing with and how we're supporting people.
Thank you. Thanks, Esther. And I think we've got time for just quickly for one more question. Can you provide any details about the groups or programs that you run?
Yeah, so a range of different disciplines within our social care team, but also part of that is the groups and programs that we run here at Hospice West Auckland. We did have to almost put a stop to them during COVID, so we're in a kind of phase where we're building every week and getting more groups and programs involved. For me, the core theme of those groups and programs, it's offered to not only our whaiora, our patients, but their whānau and their carers as well. And it's around that connection. Often it's people helping people. So if you put these people in a room, they'll often make these connections, and they take such value from that the therapy side of it might not be as important as that connection. But we offer a range of different things. We've got a Huitahi social group. We run carers programs for our carers, pet therapy. We do sometimes legacy things, so card making. Kathrin's looking at doing a Making Memories kind of course, and we run a grief and bereavement group as well for our bereaved whānau after they've lost their loved one.
That's great. Thanks so much, Esther. There are a couple more questions, but I think we'll answer that later if that's okay, because we're running out of time. So it just remains for me to thank so much our social care team for it was just a real privilege to listen to it, and I know it's a privilege to work with you guys. I know you took a lot of time to help us with that, to do the presentation, so thanks so much, and thanks Sally for joining us as well. We always do a quick plug for our doctor's advice line. Any doctors there amongst you, do call us if you want any advice from the medical team. And finally, please do complete the evaluation. That'll pop up when the webinar ends. Just leaves me to do the closing karakia. Kia whakairea, te tapo, Kia wātea ai te ara, kia tūruki whakataha ai, omie, huie, taikie.
Take care.
Have a wonderful day, everybody.